Okay, now, unfortunately, today's round was very boring. There were 8 games in the Open, and this was the only decisive one. And there were 4 games in the women's, and I got that decisive one also. That was decisive topsy-turvy. One side was winning, then the other. It was like, 40 degrees Celsius. Okay, so in this position, white is better, and Spencer and I were shocked at what the engine said here. But it makes sense after you think about like what the engine's saying. This position, black is up a pawn, but white's got a nice d file, knight d5, bishop f. Black's pieces are suspicious. The best move for white is not one you would think was the best, and neither did white. White played the obvious knight d5, which gives all of his advantage away. The correct move is knight e4, because the knight wants to do all these things. And especially if you play knight g5 at some point, queen d5 is annoying.
Hey, we have a question from the chat for Karen.
Yeah.
Hey, Karen, are you worried that Spencer is trying to attract the wrong type of women with his antics?
No, it says attract the type of
But
women.
then he corrected it, the wrong type.
Okay.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
I know, I had to put it together.
She's very worried. That's all she thinks about. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so in this position, the engine prefers white by somewhat. Okay, not much because black's a pawn up and there's no direct threats. He played knight d5, which is what everybody would play. And then the engine's like, nah, you can't do anything. Your knight's blocking everything. Okay, so d6, attacks the queen. And now they could have repeated for a draw, but white played for the win. Unfortunately, somebody did win, but it wasn't him. So you feel real bad when you do that. You have a draw, and you're like, I don't want to draw. Then you lose. You're like, I could have drawn. But you know that when you do it. And this should be a draw. The engine says this is a drawn position. He played this move, and this ending's drawn. White has a positional advantage with his knight here. This knight can't get in. These pawns are weak, so it should be a draw. San V subscribed. 15 months. Hooray. Karen's keeping it real in here. Wow.
As long as keeping it real doesn't go wrong. Yeah, right. Then it'll be all right.
Mm-hmm. I don't like people playing on my phone.
I still think it's the right thing for him to play for the win, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, he has white, and it's a 2-game match.
And there's an opportunity cost who just subscribed.
Right.
Yeah.
That's also
and
true.
We forgot about Dre. Yeah, if Spencer goes to karaoke, he won't be on the stream. So he has to figure out the opportunity cost.
That's true.
So it's not really much. Okay.
Yeah.
Is Karen wearing a puffy shirt? Maybe.
How's it going, Goblin is here?
Maybe.
No, because it's sleeveless.
Maybe it's Goblin
Okay.
Eye Sheer.
So let me show you the key moment of the game when white gives it away. This is still equal. Nobody's doing anything. Okay. In this position, white made perhaps the losing move, perhaps not. And the most obvious move is rook b6 because you attack everything. And as Spencer pointed out, he probably rejected it because you take this, you take, and then knight b4 defends this pawn and defends this pawn. And probably the rook and pawn ending might be winning because black has 2 passed pawns. But the engine says after here, black is better, but not necessarily winning. But you know what? I don't like white's position here, so I don't really blame him for not doing that. Instead, he played rook b7, which walks into a fork. And not only that, it's not even clear the fork is the right move. It could be that rook b8 is even better. But he, played here, attacking these 2 guys, which I'm sure white saw. And they traded. Well, I thought he was going to take on a6, but I was wrong. The engine takes on a6. But, now white's just a clear pawn down because this is a passed pawn. So white's obviously just fighting for a draw as opposed to fighting for a sandwich. Knight c7, knight d2. The engine doesn't like knight d2. It wants to get the rook active. But doesn't like that move either. It wants to take this and then play bishop here, putting pressure here, rook on the 7th. It just says this is a draw. It
I
says
like
this
that it
position is-
doesn't play rook a6 because this is
Yeah.
keeping the rook on a7.
Yeah, the pawn's taken care
That's
of.
tough to do.
So yeah, taking in bishop g4 is hard to see because your bishop is so good. It's weird to get the bishop on that diagonal. So he played this bad move, and I mean now White's 2 pawns down, and he's probably going to win one back, but he's not going to win that one. So that one's passed forever. Rook b8. Rook b8's actually a mistake. He needs to cement, right? What he should have done is he should have tagged out and gotten a technician, to analyze the position. Problem is, we need a technician to fix our air conditioning, and that costs money. So black should have played f5, which totally dominates the e4 square later, gives black's king a little more lift. When he doesn't play f5, now white can stop it with g4. Now black can never play f5, and so he can't cement the e4 square for his knight. And even though black is up 2 pawns, the engine says it's equal. Because this is good, these are weak, and I can't just sit my knight here the rest of the game. Now, players don't have a lot of time on their clock, so, they just make moves. He took the a pawn finally, which was wrong. And then he got his knight cemented on e4, which the knight cemented on e4 is not just good for offense, but it defends the d6 pawn.
It's a Rick and Morty shirt. Homomorphic.
Yeah, so now c'est pas facile. Yeah, now black is technically winning. The best kind of winning. Yeah,
winning.
that's right. Yeah. Yeah, so white had a chance to play g4 there, so that knight just can't sit on e4. If the knight doesn't go to e4, or it can't stay on e4, it's difficult to defend that d6 pawn. Okay, so
Oh, you got it, Pablo.
king d3. And this slowly black's winning because black has an extra pass pawn, and white doesn't have a ton of counterplay until he does. Now g6 is risky, but as Spencer likes to say,
Gotta risk it to get the biscuit.
yeah, because sometimes you blunder your rook and stuff. Yeah. But okay, if he doesn't blunder his rook, he should be fine. Okay, he tried to take the rook, but trying is and this is a brilliant move. And Spencer and I already looked at this game. Now let's see if Spencer thinks like I do.
Okay.
I immediately thought of a game when I saw knight check and king e6. And the reason it's hard to think of it is it wasn't knights, it was bishops. But it was the same idea.
I don't know. I can't think of it.
Fischer-Feingold.
Okay.
In Fischer-Feingold, Fischer played bishop e8, and my dad played king e7. Then he played king e5.
Okay.
That was the winning
I
idea.
do remember that,
Right.
actually.
So here, if you stop the guy from winning your rook, there's perpetuals and your king could get mated. But because you can play knight d2 check, you can get your king to e6. The rook and pawn ending is very easily winning. The reason is, if we trade knights, you can't win the g pawn because I win your g pawn. Terrible. So if we do this and we're like, haha, the g pawn's indefensible, then I defend it and win your g pawn. They're like, mouse slipped. So then you were fine. And then here, and the truth hurts. So this knight d2 check king e6 just wins because now black's king is moving up, white's knight doesn't have a good square, black's up a passed pawn, etc.
Mainly, etc.
Yeah, knight b1 to trade the knights, but he doesn't want to trade the knights because of the variation that well, now you can't win the g pawn because my king can defend it. So knight d1 is actually the best move. And he's trying to attack the pawns, but trying is the first step to failure.
He's got everything locked up.
Yeah, he's got all defended. Yeah.
Still some
And then
work
this
to do.
knight is no good.
Yeah, e3 is weak too.
I guess if I play king d3, I was going to check and take the knight, but the engine plays king e6 and d5. God
Yeah,
damn.
I was thinking d5.
Man, then you get mated. Yeah. Okay, so he played here because that's the best place for his king.
Rook and knight endgames are like
Yeah.
really tactical like that.
The engine wants to go here, but then it wants to repeat. I like that.
Right.
Yeah,
I noticed that Stockfish does that. It always repeats.
Good job, Steve.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, and then all the
It's
king's
desperation.
all the king's horses. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
he resigned because he's down 7 pawns.
Yeah.
He has some checks, but they don't lead anywhere. The king can always just run out, and you're going to be down 4 passed pawns. And that was the only decisive game of the round for the open section. And I don't know if Karen was here yet, but they were repeating, and White said, I don't want to repeat, and then he lost.
I don't think so.
Yeah, that's the most fun you can have when you have a draw and you're like, oh, I'm trying to win, then you lose. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Spencer and I agree with this decision because if you draw with White and you think you have the better position, you can't, you can have black in the next game, so you might as well, if you think you have an advantage, and then he got outplayed. But both of these guys are having great tournaments. Now, I got a text this morning from a FIDE master, and he said, these guys are playing, and on the another board, it's Karyak and MVL. And I said, the truth hurts.
Yeah.
You got like two of the best players who ever lived, and then you got guys you never heard of. That's the World Cup. Yeah.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if Karen was there when I was, saying what Anand was saying, or not Anand, it was Danny Wrench. There's been 9 World Cups.
Yeah.
In the 9 World Cups, the number 1 rated player has only made the final 16 4 times. Okay? Now the shocking, which Spencer got on the second guess, by the way. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Second guess, because there's billions of people. Who's the only player to make it to the final 16 all 9 times? And Spencer almost picked him first. We picked him second. I would never get this, but I know the answer, so now I get it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Svidler.
Okay.
Everyone, he's there now. And his guess was Karyakin, because Karyakin's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Svidler. Yeah. That showed Magnus or something. Yeah. I think the first couple of World Cups, Magnus was like 11 years old. So,
Right.
harsh. He wasn't the favorite in those. Yeah. Now, did he win or did he lose the Queen and 2 versus Queen and 1 against Aronian? He either won or he lost.
He won it.
He won, I think he had to win. I think it was.
I think he
lost
won it.
Yeah.
I'm actually not 100% sure.
Yeah, I know there was a drawn ending that was won
Right.
by one.
I do remember
when
that.
he was
yeah.
like 10 or something.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah.
He was a baby Magnus.
Yeah.
Little baby Magnus.
Yeah. Etc.